everybody, I'm just a bird among the trees, and today I'm going to be teaching you guys about one of my favorite wild edibles. Those are nettles. I'm going to be showing you how to identify them, how to differentiate them, as well as how to harvest and cook them. But the harvesting and cooking we're going to hold off on until the next video. So this here is a stinging nettle. Now usually when you hear nettle, it's always preceded by the word stinging. They're not synonyms. There's many species of nettles. Stinging nettles are just one of them. This is Urtica dioica. These stinging nettles like to grow in full sun and damp soil. So you can see I am over by a creek. You'll also find them growing in ditches and in damp fields. So if you're looking for these stinging nettles, you're going to want to find other plants that like those same growing conditions. Some examples would be things like goldenrod, which we have here. We've got here some parsnips. Over here it's growing next to some dock. This specifically is yellow dock, but also curly dock and burdock are good things to look for. Over here we've got some chickweed, and we've even got some wild sunflower. All of these are good plants to look for if you're looking for your stinging nettles. The stinging nettle is not the only species of nettle. It's not even native to North America. And the next species of nettle that I'm going to talk about is native to North America. And it's actually, if I can pick you guys up, there's a patch of it right here. Now these are wood nettles. So this is Laperti canadensis. These guys don't typically grow next to each other. The wood nettles tend to grow in more shady conditions, whereas the stinging nettles tend to grow in high sun. But this gives us a nice opportunity to compare them. The wood nettles have these big, broad leaves versus the stinging nettles have these very deeply toothed, spear-shaped leaves. We still have that toothing on the wood nettles, and by the way, if you guys don't know how to hold nettle leaves, don't do what I'm doing, otherwise you'll get stung. Ha 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 ha! Another difference between the two species is if you look down at their stems, look at the wood nettle stem, it looks almost spiky. It's covered in a lot of stinging hairs. Whereas if we look over, I'm just gonna pan over, this is the stinging nettle stem, and we have very few stinging hairs, and it's got these very deep grooves. So we've got two different species of nettles, and I know somebody's going to be asking which one is the better edible. So they have very similar flavors to each other. So I'm going to divide this into a couple categories. Which one remains tender for most of the growing period, and which one has the longest growing period, the longest period for which you can eat it as an edible. Now for the first category, I have to give it to the wood nettle. Most of the mass of the wood nettle plant is in these big broad leaves, and most of the mass is at the top of the plant. The top of nettle plants is the only place you can consistently harvest. The rest of the plant is tough, and unless you like chewing nettle fiber, go with the top of the plant. On the other hand, with the stinging nettle, we've got most of the mass of the plant is in this big, tall stem with only very narrow leaves. However, as soon as you have frost, these wood nettles are going to frost off. They're going to go away, and you can't eat them anymore. On the other hand, the stinging nettle is going to stick around for a little while after frost, so it does have the longer period for which you can eat it as an edible. Now, as I mentioned before, these guys don't typically grow next to each other. They have two different growth preferences. Both of them like damp areas. However, wood nettles, as you might imagine, like to grow in the woods. They like shady areas, whereas stinging nettles like full sun. So we're actually going to head back into the woods that way to see if we can find some wood nettles growing where they normally do. Alright, let's go on an adventure! few steps and some wet feet later, we are now back in the woods, and as you can see, I have found us some lovely wood nettles. Actually, pretty much this whole area is full of wood nettles, if I turn the camera. This is a more typical growing situation for the wood nettles, so this is a real good place to check out what kind of plants you'd find growing around them. So around your wood nettles, you're gonna find things like this. This is jewelweed. You can see that the teeth are much more rounded, and these leaves are soft. Another type of plant you might be looking for is things like white violet. White violet being a woodland variety of violet. Those are probably your two best bet, especially the jewelweed. Well, I hope you guys found this video helpful. If you guys have any questions, let me know in the comments down below. Next time, I'm going to be showing you guys how to harvest and how to cook these nettles. And I will be seeing you in that next video. Bye!